I remember a couple coming in once wanting to retire that same year, and the numbers just didn't bear it out. Watch on for the creative solution that we came up with to get them into retirement, and definitely watch to the end for a few practical applications to your situation. Hey everyone, I'm Andrew. I'm a CFA charter holder and a CFP professional who spent the last several years helping ultra high net worth to high net worth investors with their complex financial lives. I'm also the owner of Lever Wealth Management, which is the financial advisor for people who scare financial advisors. What I do is I take my learnings from those complex situations and I give them to you so that you can apply them to your own situation. Today, I want to talk about the fact that your choice and decision on whether to retire or work another year has a material impact on your retirement plan, much more so than many people would understand. And to illustrate that, I think of a client or a couple that had walked in years ago who had just under $1 million in assets, financial assets, and needed to spend about $5,000 a month to make retirement work for them. But they were under 60 and had longevity in their family. And so that's a pretty high withdrawal rate. And they didn't want to take on a ton of equity risk for retirement to be achievable, but at the same time, probably needed to take on a fair amount of equity risk. And so their chance of retirement being successful, success meaning having enough money until the end, it was a 50-50 shot at the end of the day. The wife was just miserable in her job, hated Sunday nights, didn't want to go in on Monday morning, told me she would cry sometimes, loathed what the business she worked for had become, somewhat a story as old as time. And so what we decided was, okay, you have a 50-50 shot if you both stop working today, but she's way more miserable than he is. So let's see if he can work. Now, the unfortunate thing was when you added up all of their savings, they both maxed out 401k, they both got matches. When you added that in, it was about $50,000 of savings. Plus, he had a defined benefit pension plan that every year he worked, it was an additional amount that he would get monthly. And so when you added that in, that was probably about another $1,200 a year that he would be getting in pension benefit over his lifetime. But when you add all of that up and take away the $60,000 that they'd be pulling from the account, it's easy to see it's a $125,000 decision easily, whether they pull the plug today or wait. What that doesn't include is the compounded growth on those savings, which probably has a 4 or a 5 multiple on it because of compound growth over a long period of time. So you can see how this has a material impact. I bet your plan shows about a 3 to 5% difference in success for each year you change your retirement plan, all else equal. Well, for them, we said, okay, what if she stops working and we don't get her savings anymore and we reduce his savings, but he's still going to get the pension benefit for years of service and increased compensation. And we're saving $60,000 that we're not spending down from the portfolio because we're spending it from his salary. And it took it from a 50-50 shot to 5% more, 55%. You go, okay, those are better odds. But where did the variability in the analysis come from? They were just under 60. Most of the variability of the failures, okay, so the 45% that are bad outcomes, most of those occurred from portfolio spin downs and bad markets before Social Security age, because they both had a Social Security benefit. And so then the game became, well, what if we could mitigate the portfolio risk until Social Security? And by the time you hit full retirement age, actually 80 to 90% of your fixed income needs are taken care of from the Social Security benefit. Now that becomes an interesting discussion. And so we ran, well, what if he worked 2 years? What if he worked 3? And it ended up to where we could get it to where it's 75, 80% success rate. And so that's what we decided to do. She came out of the workforce. He kept working. We reduced his savings so they could live off his salary. He still gets the pension accrual. He still gets a little bit of a 401k match. They're not spending down assets. Well, what happens is after a few years, equity markets had outperformed. They were still invested in equities and dollar cost averaging in. And every year we'd come back and go, okay, Can you make it one more year, or do you need to retire? And he go, no, I think I can make it one more year. Well, after 3 or so years, the plan had outperformed the projections because of equity growth. And now we're closer to 67 as well. So the variability of outcomes has also been greatly reduced. And now we can just take the excess earnings from the equities, redeploy them into fixed income assets. And now you've matched up the cash flows to where their fixed income needs or their fixed expenses are taken care of for the rest of retirement. And so the probability of success went from 50-50 before retirement to over 90%. And now we're having talks about legacy and philanthropy in 3 years, all because we were willing to have a candid discussion on where they were and the fact that they couldn't retire at that time, but created a plan to get there. And guess what? The plan went better than we thought. Great. So you take some of that excess growth off the table and you redeploy it. Doesn't always work out that way. But many times what I find is people undervalue, if they're on the verge of being able to retire, they undervalue what another year of savings and another year of not spending down the portfolio can do to insulate a retirement plan. So hope that story gives you a few things to think about. And I'd say run your retirement plan with different retirement dates. Everyone's situation is different. So give me a little grace with my numbers there, but I'm sure you'll be surprised at the impact it could have. Until next time, see y'all.